Posted by Film Truth and NYC, October 3rd, 2024, 3:42 a.m. Thread: Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies. I don't know who to talk to about this. I tried telling my producer. My friends. Everyone thinks I'm either joking or having some kind of breakdown. Maybe I am. God, I hope I am. But I know what I saw. My name is Maya Chun. I'm a documentary filmmaker. Mostly small independent pieces about urban architecture and the hidden stories behind city landmarks. Nothing conspiratorial. Nothing controversial. I've always been the rational one, the skeptic, the person who finds the logical explanation behind the urban legend. Until 3 days ago, it came as an email from an address I didn't recognize, just a string of numbers and letters. No subject line, just an attachment with a file name that was equally random. Normally I delete it as spam, but something made me pause. The email body contained just 5 words. They're waking up. Look closely. Against better judgment, I scanned the file, clean, and opened it. It was a 38-second video clip, obviously taken from Liberty Island, showing a standard tourist view of the Statue of Liberty. Slightly shaky handheld footage, decent resolution, but nothing special. The kind of thing thousands of visitors capture every day. I almost closed it immediately. But then, at the 17-second mark, I saw it. The torch moved, not dramatically, not like it was waving or anything Hollywood would create. A subtle shift, barely perceptible. The kind of gentle movement you might see when metal expands and contracts with temperature changes. Except it wasn't the whole torch, just the flame portion, tilting approximately 3 degrees to the west, holding for 7 seconds, then returning to its original position. I replayed it. Again, 20, 30 times. Used editing software to stabilize the footage. Applied motion tracking markers. The movement was real, not a camera trick, not a digital artifact. I'm attaching the file to this post. Look at the 017 to 024 mark. Tell me you see it too. Reply from Statue History 1886. I've studied every pixel of your video. Either this is the most sophisticated fake I've seen, or I don't know what. The shadow patterns are consistent. The ambient light reflection on the torch follows natural physics. If this is CGI, it's beyond Hollywood level. Reply from Film Truth _NYC. It's not CGI. I've worked with enough visual effects to spot the tells. This is raw footage, unaltered, which is why I can't sleep. I spent that entire night analyzing the footage, running it through every authentication software I have access to. By morning, I was convinced the video showed something impossible yet real. I tried calling the number attached to the email address, disconnected. Reverse image, searching screenshots. Nothing unusual came up. I was about to reach out to a colleague at Columbia University's engineering department when it happened. My TV, computer, and phone all emitted that harsh, grating emergency alert tone simultaneously. You know the sound, that static fill blare that make your skin crawl. I expected the standard, "This is a test of the emergency broadcast system" message. Instead, the alert read, "Emergency alert system issued by Department of Homeland Security, New York City area. Civil authorities have issued an immediate shelter-in-place warning for the following areas: Battery Park, Financial District, Liberty Island. Remain indoors. Avoid windows facing south/southwest. This is not a drill." Message repeats in 10:98, and then nothing. The countdown stopped at 3. The message disappeared. My devices returned to normal as if nothing had happened. I immediately checked social media, news sites, local government pages. Not a single mention of any alert. No explanation. No acknowledgement that it had even occurred. I called a friend who lives in Battery Park. He hadn't received any alert. Neither had anyone else I contacted. Just me. Was it targeted somehow? Connected to the video I'd received? The timing seemed too specific to be coincidental. I tried calling the local emergency management office, but they insisted no alerts had been issued that day. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the torch moving, that subtle, impossible shift. Around 2 a.m., I got up and looked out my apartment window. From where I live in Brooklyn Heights, I could just see the statue's silhouette on clear nights. There she stood, motionless as she has been for over a century. But somehow, her stillness felt different now. Less like a monument and more like waiting. I set up my camera on a tripod, pointed it toward the harbor, and started a time-lapse recording. It's still running as I type this. This morning, something else happened. While reviewing the footage again, I noticed a detail I'd missed, a reflection in one of the observation deck windows. A face, just for a frame or two, staring directly at the camera. Not a tourist, someone in what looked like tactical gear. I've attached a still frame. The quality isn't great when zoomed in, but there's something unnerving about that expressionless stare, like they were looking for whoever was filming. I tried uploading the video to my YouTube channel an hour ago. The upload failed repeatedly. Then my entire channel disappeared. Violation of community guidelines, the notice said. My account with over 200,000 subscribers gone. My phone rang 10 minutes later. Unknown number. Ms. Chun, a male voice said. He knew my name without me providing it. This is Agent Kaplan with the Department of Homeland Security. We'd like to discuss the footage you're attempting to distribute. I hung up. Probably shouldn't have, but panic took over. 3 missed calls since then, same number. I'm writing this from a coffee shop using public Wi-Fi. I'm not going home tonight. I've backed up the video on multiple drives, stored in different locations. If anything happens to me, at least the footage survives. The strangest part? As I've been typing this, emergency alerts have been testing on every phone in this cafe. One after another. Standard tests. Nothing unusual in the content, but the frequency is unprecedented. 5 alerts in the past hour alone. No one else seems concerned. They sigh, dismiss the alerts, and continue their conversations. But I notice something they don't. Each alert tone has a slightly different pattern. The pitch is very subtly, like some kind of code or sequence. I'm going to visit Liberty Island tomorrow. See for myself. I've arranged to interview Dr. Sanjay Patel, a historian who's studied the statue for decades. Maybe he can make sense of this. If I don't post an update by tomorrow night, please, someone look into this. The statue moved. I know it moved, and I think someone doesn't want us to know why. System notification. This thread has been flagged for review by moderators. No additional replies can be posted at this time. Attachment, statuemovement.mp4. File unavailable. Content removed due to copyright claim by U.S. Department of Interior. Posted by Film Truth and NYC. October 4th, 2024, 11:17 p.m. I had to create a new account after my original was permanently banned. They're watching these forums, but I need to document this somewhere. I need witnesses. I met with Dr. Sanjay Patel today. For those who don't know him, he's written 3 books on the Statue of Liberty, specializing in its construction and the symbolism encoded in Bartholdi's design. His office at NYU is cluttered with blueprints, historical photographs, and scale models of various monuments. Not just Lady Liberty, monuments from around the world. When I arrived, he seemed nervous, distracted. The interview started normally enough, with him reciting the statue's basic history. Gift from France, copper sheets over a steel framework, dedicated in 1886. Then I showed him the footage. His reaction wasn't what I expected. No shock, no disbelief. Instead, he removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes, and whispered, "So it's starting." The recording device I'd set on his desk emitted a burst of static at that exact moment. When I checked it later, that section was corrupted, just digital noise. Dr. Patel locked his office door and pulled down the blinds. He retrieved a worn leather portfolio from a hidden compartment in his desk. Inside were letters, correspondence between Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, the statue's sculptor, and a man named Alexander Gustav Eiffel. Yes, that Eiffel, the tower guy. But these weren't the kind of letters you'd find in a museum. The paper was brittle, the ink faded, but I could make out diagrams in the margins. Not just engineering sketches, but symbols. Occult symbols. The official story is that the Statue of Liberty is symbolic. Liberty enlightening the world, Dr. Patel said, hands trembling slightly as he arranged the letters. The unofficial story is that Bartholdi was a Freemason, incorporating their symbolism into his work. But there's a third story, Ms. Chun, a story almost no one knows. He pointed to a particular diagram, something that looked like the statue's internal structure, but with modifications. Additional components hidden within the framework. They weren't just building a monument, he said. They were building a cage. Before he could elaborate, both our phones blared with that emergency alert tone. I nearly dropped mine in surprise. This time, other people heard it too. I could hear alerts echoing down the hallway from other offices. The message read, Emergency Alert System. Test of a National Wireless Emergency System. No action required. Standby for signal strength assessment. 7 Hz, 12 Hz frequency test. This is only a test. Dr. Patel stared at the alert, his face draining of color. 7 to 12 Hz, he muttered. That's what? I pressed. Extremely low frequency. ELF. The range the military uses for submarine communications because it penetrates solid earth and seawater. He paused. Also the frequency range of certain seismic events. As our phones returned to normal, I noticed something strange. The alert had disappeared from the notification history on my device. When I mentioned this to Dr. Patel, he checked his phone and found the same thing. No record of the alert. As if it never happened, he continued unpacking his research, speaking more quickly now, as if racing against the clock. According to correspondence between Bartholdi and members of an organization called Les Gardians, the Statue of Liberty wasn't merely a monument but a binding marker, one of several worldwide. The ancient ones sleep beneath markers of human triumph. One letter read, The weight of civilization's achievements holds them in slumber. Should the markers fail, the letter didn't finish the thought. Dr. Patel showed me a map. Dots mark locations around the world. The Eiffel Tower, the Colossus of Rhodes, though it no longer stands, the Moai of Easter Island, Stonehenge, the Great Sphinx. Some of these monuments are thousands of years older than others, I pointed out. Because the need for them is ancient, he replied. Different cultures, different eras, same purpose. To mark and contain. He pulled out his phone and showed me a news app. Small headlines from around the world that most people would ignore. Minor earthquake reported near Easter Island. No damage. Stonehenge closed for unscheduled maintenance after structural assessment. Eiffel Tower experiences thermal expansion event. Engineers monitoring. They're all happening within the past week, he said. And always followed by, on cue, the emergency alert sounded again. This time with a barely perceptible difference in the tone, slightly lower pitch, longer duration. The message was identical to the previous one, but the frequency range now read 5Hz, 9Hz frequency test. As we stared at our phones, I noticed something in Dr. Patel's expression, recognition. You've heard this before, I said. It wasn't a question. He nodded slowly. 3 years ago, I was researching abnormalities in the statue's maintenance records. Unusual vibrations detected in the pedestal. The next day, these alerts started. After the third one, I received a visit from a man who identified himself as Agent Thomas from the Department of the Interior. And then I stopped my research. His voice was flat. Until today, as we were talking, my phone vibrated with an email notification. Anonymous sender. Just like before, the message contained a single audio file. I played it, keeping the volume low. It was a recording of an emergency broadcast, but distorted, as if playing backwards, with a voice barely audible beneath the static. When I reversed the audio later in my hotel room, the message became clear. They're not alerts. They're keeping them asleep. Don't break the pattern. As I was leaving Dr. Patel's office, he grabbed my arm. There's something else you should know about the statue, he whispered. Bartholdi's original design was different. The arm wasn't raised. The torch wasn't a torch. What was it? A seal. A capítulo. Like a stopper on a bottle. His eyes darted to the window, then back to me. And Ms. Chun, the The statue isn't entirely hollow. I've booked passage on a tourist ferry to Liberty Island tomorrow morning. The regular tours are closed for maintenance, but I found a private operator willing to get close enough for me to document any visible changes. If these monuments are indeed some kind of containment system, what happens when they move? What exactly is waking up? The strangest thing happened as I was writing this post from my hotel room. Every digital clock in the building reset itself simultaneously, all displaying 18 hours, 86 minutes instead of the actual time. The year the statue was dedicated. Something is reaching out. Something is communicating, and the alerts are coming more frequently now. Reply from Eyes Wide History. Maya, please be careful. Those symbols you described from Bartholdi's letters, I recognize them from my work in comparative mythology. They appear in various forms across ancient cultures, always associated with those who came before or the ones below. Ancient binding rituals. Reply from Film Truth_NYC. The alerts just sounded again. 3HZ, 7HZ this time. Lower and lower frequency. Like something deep is rising. System notification. This thread has been flagged for review by moderators. No additional replies can be posted at this time. Posted by Film Truth_NYC, October 5th, 2024, 8:54 p.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies secure server mirror. I'm writing this from a bathroom stall at a diner in Red Hook. My hands won't stop shaking. Something happened on Liberty Island today. Something I can't explain. The tourist ferries were indeed canceled. Mechanical issues, according to the signs posted at Battery Park. But money talks in New York. I found a local fisherman willing to take me within filming distance of the island for $300 cash. No names exchanged. No questions asked. The morning was unusually still. No wind. The harbor water like glass. Even the constant hum of the city seemed muted, as if everything was holding its breath. As we approached Liberty Island, fog rolled in from nowhere, thick, unnatural fog that seemed to cling specifically to the island and the waters immediately surrounding it. Never seen it do that, my boat captain muttered, the first words he'd spoken during our journey. I filmed everything. The statue appeared and disappeared through gaps in the mist, giving it an unsettling, almost animate quality. While I reviewed the footage later, I noticed something in the background, flashing lights on the island itself. Not emergency vehicles, something else. Rhythmic pulses, almost synchronized with, I'm getting ahead of myself. We circled the island twice. On our second pass, the fog briefly cleared, and I caught sight of activity around the statue's base. Workers in hazmat-style suits. Equipment I didn't recognize. And armed personnel, not the usual park police. These were military with unmarked black uniforms. I zoomed in as much as my camera would allow. They appeared to be taking measurements of the pedestal with strange devices, not standard surveying equipment. More like sensors, with cables running into the pedestal itself. Then everything changed. A low vibration began. Not a sound exactly, more like a pressure. I felt it in my chest first, then my sinuses, then behind my eyes. The boat captain felt it too, grimacing and shaking his head as if trying to clear it. We need to leave, he said, already turning the boat. I kept filming. As we pulled away, my phone, camera, and every electronic device I had with me emitted that now familiar emergency alert sound, but distorted, stretched out, almost mournful. No message appeared on the screen this time. Just the tone, continuing well beyond its usual duration. The vibration intensified. The water around us began to ripple in concentric patterns emanating from the island. The boat's engine sputtered and died. That's when I saw it. Through my camera viewfinder, zoomed in on the statue's face, her eyes moved. Not a trick of light or shadow. Not an optical illusion. Her metallic eyes shifted slightly downward, as if looking directly at me. I lowered the camera, hoping, praying it was some artifact of the lens. But even with my naked eyes from hundreds of yards away, I could see it. The statue's head had tilted forward approximately 3 degrees. The boat captain saw it too. He frantically worked to restart the engine, muttering what sounded like prayers in Spanish. Above us, the emergency alerts from our devices suddenly synchronized, creating a harmonic tone that perfectly matched the vibration we were feeling. As if responding, the lights around the statue's base pulsed brighter. The workers moved with new urgency. Then I noticed something else, a figure standing apart from the others. Taller, wearing a dark suit instead of hazmat gear. Even from that distance, I could feel him watching us. He raised something to his ear, a phone or radio, and moments later, a Coast Guard vessel appeared from behind the island, heading straight for us. The fisherman's engine finally caught. He gunned it toward Brooklyn, away from the approaching Coast Guard. I kept filming until the statue disappeared back into the fog. But the footage from that point on shows nothing but gray mist and churning water. We made it to a small private dock in Red Hook. The captain refused the remaining payment I offered, saying only, "Don't come back to me. Don't tell anyone about me." He was gone before I could respond. I found a coffee shop with Wi-Fi and began downloading my footage to a secure cloud account. Halfway through the upload, every screen in the cafe, laptops, phones, the digital menu board, simultaneously displayed an emergency alert. Emergency alert system issued by Department of Homeland Security. Technical difficulties affecting cellular and internet infrastructure in Lower Manhattan, Brooklyn, and harbor areas. No cause for concern. Regular service expected to resume within 24 hours. This is only a notification. My upload failed. The Wi-Fi died. Even cellular data stopped working. I left the coffee shop and started walking, trying multiple businesses along the way. No internet anywhere. An information blackout, centered on exactly the areas with a view of Liberty Island. I retreated to this diner, which miraculously has functioning Wi-Fi, though it keeps dropping intermittently. While I've been typing, 3 more emergency alerts have sounded throughout the restaurant. Each one makes people look up briefly, then return to their meals. No one seems to notice that each alert has a slightly different tone, a different cadence. But I notice something else now. The alerts aren't just coming more frequently, they're coming in patterns. Mathematical sequences. After the 3rd alert, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered this time, staying silent. Ms. Chun. It was the same voice as before. Agent Kaplan, we need to discuss what you witnessed today. How did you get this number? I asked. I'd purchased a burner phone just that morning. That's not important, he replied. What's important is that you understand the significance of what you're involving yourself in. This isn't about a conspiracy or a cover-up. This is about containment. Public safety. The statue moved, I said. I have it on film. A pause, then what you saw was a scheduled structural assessment using hydraulic testing equipment. Nothing more. And the eyes. I demanded. The head tilting. Another pause. I'd like to meet Ms. Chun. To explain. To show you what's really happening. So you can confiscate my footage? Detain me so I can show you why these monuments exist. What they're designed to contain. There are things the public isn't equipped to understand. As he spoke, I could hear emergency alert tones in the background of his call. The same sequence I've been hearing, but seemingly at a different stage. The alerts, I said, they're not warnings, are they? There's some kind of signal. Meet me tomorrow, he said instead of answering. Battery Park, North Side, 9 a.m. Come alone. Bring your footage. I'll bring answers. He hung up before I could respond. As I finished typing this, I'm watching a live news broadcast on the diner's TV. A reporter stands at the harbor behind her, the Statue of Liberty a distant silhouette in the evening light. She's discussing ferry cancellations due to weather conditions. The statue in the background appears perfectly normal, motionless, but as the camera lingers, I notice something odd about the torch. The flame seems dimmer somehow, as if something is obscuring its usual illumination. Tomorrow I meet Agent Kaplan. I don't trust him, but I need answers. I've copied my footage to multiple drives, hidden in different locations. If anything happens to me, the truth doesn't disappear with me. The vibration I felt today, it's still with me. A phantom sensation behind my eyes. In quiet moments, it almost feels like words. I'll update tomorrow if I can. Reply from Harbor_Watch_247. I'm a tugboat operator in New York Harbor. We've been ordered to maintain a 1.5-mile exclusion zone around Liberty Island until further notice. No explanation given. Coast Guard presence has tripled overnight. Reply from filmtruth_NYC. Has anyone else noticed that the emergency alert tones are shifting to lower frequencies? Today's alerts were almost at the threshold of human hearing. More felt than heard. System notification. This thread has been flagged for review by moderators. Due to violation of terms of service, this account will be suspended in 12 hours. Posted by NYC Truth Seeker. October 6th, 2024, 11:38 p.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies secure server mirror 2. They took everything. My camera, my phone, every storage device I had on me. This is my third new account in as many days. I'm borrowing a stranger's laptop at a 24-hour laundromat in Queens. I don't know how long I have before they track this connection. I went to Battery Park this morning to meet Agent Kaplan. I'm not sure what I expected. Answers, threats, maybe both. What I got was something else entirely. The park was unusually empty for a Saturday morning. No llegues. No tourists with maps and selfie sticks. Just a handful of people scattered across the benches, all wearing earpieces, all pretending not to watch me as I walked the north pathway. Kaplan was waiting by the harbor railing, gazing out at Liberty Island. He didn't turn when I approached, just gestured for me to stand beside him. He was younger than I expected, early 40s maybe, with close-cropped gray hair and the rigid posture of someone with military training. "Do you know why she faces southeast?" he asked, still looking out the water. I didn't answer. "Most people assume she's greeting arrivals from Europe," he continued. "But Europe is northeast of New York. She's actually facing the mid-Atlantic ridge, the boundary between tectonic plates, the thinnest part of the Earth's crust in the Atlantic." He turned to me then, his eyes hidden behind reflective sunglasses. "The placement is deliberate, Ms. Chun, as is the placement of every major monument on Earth." "Dr. Patel, show me the map," I said. "The binding markers." A slight frown crossed his face at the mention of Patel. "Then you understand part of it. These structures aren't just symbolic. They're functional." "Functional how?" Instead of answering, he held out a small device resembling a digital recorder. "Play this. Listen carefully." I took it reluctantly and pressed play. What emerged wasn't sound exactly, more like rhythmic pulses of static almost below the threshold of hearing. But as it continued, I recognized the pattern. "The emergency alerts," I said. He nodded, slowed down, and stripped of the message overlay. "The raw signal. What does it mean?" "It's a dampening frequency, like noise-canceling headphones, but for something much more dangerous than ambient sound." He took the device back. "The alerts serve a dual purpose. They provide plausible cover for broadcasting these frequencies, and they allow us to adjust the containment pattern as needed." "Containment of what?" I demanded. Kaplan's expression remained neutral, but his jaw tightened. "That's complicated. Try me." He sighed, removing his sunglasses. His eyes were tired, bloodshot. "Humanity isn't the first intelligent species to dominate this planet, Ms. Chun. Not by a long shot. The others, the ones that came before, they didn't die out. They didn't evolve into something else. They're still here, dormant, waiting." A chill ran through me despite the morning sun. "Under the monuments?" "Under, within, connected to. The relationship is symbiotic in a way. The monuments act as anchors, keeping them in stasis. But they require maintenance, regular adjustments. As if on cue, every phone in the park, including Kaplan's, emitted that familiar alert tone. He didn't even check his device. "The frequencies are slipping," he said quietly. "The containment protocols are failing for the first time in over a century. That's why you saw movement. That's why others are seeing it too." My mind raced to process what he was telling me. "If these things wake up, reality as we understand it ends," he finished flatly. "These entities don't just exist physically. They exist across dimensions of space and time that human consciousness can't process without fragmenting. Even partial awakening causes localized reality distortions, like the fog around Liberty Island, like the chronological anomalies you experienced, like the fact that I've had this exact conversation with you 3 times already and you don't remember the previous iterations. I stepped back from him, suddenly dizzy. What are you talking about? He checked his watch. In about 10 seconds, you're going to experience a nosebleed from your right nostril. It's a symptom of temporal desynchronization. Before I could respond, I felt a warm trickle down my face. I touched my upper lip, blood from my right nostril. This is the 4th time we've met in Battery Park, Kaplan continued, handing me a handkerchief. The first 3 ended poorly. You ran. You contacted journalists. Once you tried to break the alert pattern. We're hoping for a better outcome this time. I pressed the cloth to my nose, mind reeling. Why tell me any of this? Why not just arrest me or disappear me? Because we need you, Ms. Chun. Or more specifically, we need your connection to what's happening. You received that original footage for a reason. Someone, or something, chose you as a conduit. As we spoke, I became aware of the park's other occupants moving closer, forming a loose perimeter around us. What do you mean? Something chose me. Kaplan glanced at his colleagues, then back to me. The entities aren't fully unconscious. They dream. Sometimes they reach out through those dreams, finding minds receptive to their frequencies. You've been experiencing headaches, haven't you? Pressure behind your eyes? Strange dreams. I didn't answer, which was answer enough. We have a facility, he continued, where we study these phenomena, where we work to maintain the containment protocols. I'd like you to come with us, voluntarily, to help us understand what's happening. And if I refuse, his expression didn't change. Then we take you involuntarily and search for whatever backup copies of your footage you've hidden. We can't allow that evidence to spread, Ms. Chun. The public panic alone could disrupt the frequency patterns enough to trigger catastrophic awakening. I looked past him to the harbor, where Liberty Island sat shrouded in that unnatural fog. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw the entire island shift slightly, like a buoy on water. I'll come with you, I said finally, but I want guarantees. I want to know everything. You'll know what you need to, he replied, gesturing toward a black SUV waiting at the park entrance. As we walked, a woman approached from the side, lean, intense, with dark skin and scrutinizing eyes. She wore plain clothes, but moved with the alert readiness of law enforcement. Ms. Chun, she said, extending her hand. Detective Layla Washington, NYPD Special Investigations. I've been following your case with interest. Kaplan's expression tightened. Detective Washington isn't part of our operation, he said tersely. Just doing my job, she replied, handing me a business card. Multiple missing persons reports connected to Liberty Island over the past week, including Dr. Sanjay Patel, reported missing by his department head yesterday. My stomach dropped. What? Detective Kaplan cut in. This is a matter of national security. Your investigation is being superseded. Washington smiled thinly. Funny thing about local law enforcement, Agent Kaplan. We tend to get suspicious when federal agencies start throwing around national security without proper documentation. She turned to me. If you're going with them voluntarily, that's your choice. But if you feel unsafe at any point, my number's on that card. She walked away before Kaplan could respond. As she passed, she whispered, the alerts aren't what you think they are. I tucked her card in my pocket as Kaplan led me to the vehicle. They searched me before letting me inside, taking everything electronic, everything that could record or transmit. I'm writing this from memory hours later after slipping away from their custody during a shift change at what they called a temporary processing facility in Queens. They'll be looking for me, but Detective Washington's card was paper, the one thing they didn't take. I called her. She's coming to get me. Says she has information about what the alerts really are and why the monuments are moving. I don't know who to trust anymore. Reply from Signal analyst _426. I've been tracking the emergency alert broadcasts. They're following a mathematical sequence. Prime numbers in reverse, translated to frequency values. This isn't containment. It's a countdown. Reply from NYC Truth Seeker. The vibrations are getting stronger. I can feel them through the floor now, like something massive shifting underground. System notification. Connection terminated by remote host. Posted by NYC Truth Seeker. October 8th, 2024, 3:17 a.m. Thread. Unexplained footage /NYC anomalies. Secure server mirror 3. I'm writing this from the basement archives of the New York Historical Society. Detective Washington got me access using her badge, claiming I'm a consultant on a historical artifact verification case. The building is technically closed, but there's a security guard who owes her a favor. We have until morning. Dr. Patel isn't dead. At least, I don't think he is. Washington found his cell phone in a dumpster 6 blocks from his apartment, but there was no sign of struggle at his home. No blood, no forced entry, just an open laptop displaying a partially completed email to me. The subject line, found original blueprints, not what they seem. Washington thinks someone got to him before he could send it. I think something else might have happened. The security cameras outside his building captured something strange at 2:14 a.m. on the night he disappeared. The footage shows Patel leaving voluntarily, carrying a leather document case. But the way he moves is wrong. Jerky, mechanical, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. And when he passes under a streetlight, his shadow doesn't match his body. It's elongated, twisted with too many limbs. Washington has been investigating similar disappearances for months. Always people with connections to national monuments or historical structures. Always preceded by emergency broadcasts testing in their immediate vicinity. She believes the government is involved, but I'm starting to wonder if the government is just as caught in this as we are, running scared, trying to contain something they don't understand. We've spent the last 4 hours digging through the Historical Society's restricted collection, following breadcrumbs Patel left in his research notes. What we found is disturbing. The original Statue of Liberty blueprints differ significantly from what was actually constructed. The internal support structure contains geometric patterns that serve no architectural purpose. Concentric circles and interlocking triangles etched into the steel framework. And there are spaces inside the statue that don't appear on any public record. Chambers within the base and torso that were sealed before the monument opened to the public. But that's not the strangest thing. We found correspondence between Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, the statue's designer, and members of a Parisian esoteric society called Les Gardiens des Anciens, the Guardians of the Ancients. The letters are coded, but we've managed to translate fragments. The anchor point must be precisely aligned with the Atlantic rupture. The frequency resonators embedded within the crown will maintain the binding, so long as they are periodically recharged through the specified harmonic sequence. Copper skin serves as both conductor and barrier, channeling the dormant energies while preventing seepage into the surrounding dimension. The torch is not symbolic, but functional, a beacon not for human eyes, but for those who watch from the spaces between stars. Washington found similar documents related to other monuments. The Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Great Sphinx of Giza, Stonehenge, all containing hidden geometric patterns, all placed along specific geomagnetic lines, all constructed during periods of unusual astronomical alignment. They're not just monuments, they're binding sites, locks on doors that were never meant to be opened. As we were photographing these documents, every emergency alert system in the building activated simultaneously. The message was the standard test announcement, but there was something beneath it, a subsonic pulse that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. When it ended, Washington's nose was bleeding, and I had somehow scratched strange symbols in my notepad without realizing what I was doing. We were about to leave when we found it, Patel's research journal, hidden behind a row of archival boxes. The last entry, dated the day before his disappearance, contains a hastily drawn map of New York with concentric circles radiating from Liberty Island. Each circle marks the location of an emergency broadcast tower, forming a perfect geometric pattern around the statue. In the margin, Patel had written, "The alerts aren't containment, they're communication. Two-way. We're not keeping something in, we're being prepared for something coming through." Attached to the journal was a small device, similar to the one Kaplan showed me, but modified with components I don't recognize. A handwritten note explained, "Signal decoder. Separates human message from the underlying carrier wave. Listen carefully." Washington and I took it to a soundproof media room and plugged it into the archive's audio system. When the next scheduled emergency broadcast began at 2 a.m., we ran it through Patel's device. What we heard wasn't static or code. It was a voice, not human, but deliberately formed sounds approximating human speech patterns. Layered, multi-tonal, like multiple throats speaking in perfect synchronization. Through the distortion, I can make out words. Preparation sequence 47 initiated. Anchor integrity at 38%. Resonance failure imminent. The sleepers stir. Barrier collapse estimated 72 hours. Prepare the vessels. Washington recognized something in the voice pattern. She spent the last hour comparing it to audio recordings from classified military exercises in the harbor last year. Exercises that reportedly involved acoustic mapping of the seabed around Liberty Island. The patterns match. The military wasn't mapping the seabed. They were communicating with something down there. While she works, I've been reviewing security camera footage of Liberty Island from the past week that she obtained through NYPD channels. The statue is definitely moving. Subtle changes in the angle of the torch, the position of the head, the stance of the feet. Frame by frame, pixel by pixel, it's shifting posture like something gradually waking from paralysis. But what terrifies me most is what's happening to the island itself. The bedrock is changing composition. Spectroscopic analysis shows increasing concentrations of unknown minerals spreading outward from the statue's base, like an infection through the island stone. The same mineral composition has been detected at other monument sites worldwide. My phone just buzzed with an unscheduled emergency alert. The text is standard. This is a test of the emergency alert system, but the signal pattern is different. When I hold my phone near Patel's device, I can hear fragments of that same inhuman voice. Vessels identified. Prepare for communion. Washington's equipment is picking up unusual movement around Liberty Island. The Coast Guard has established a 2-mile exclusion zone, citing structural assessment operations. But satellite imagery shows no Coast Guard vessels, just strange disturbances in the water, concentric ripples emanating from the island at precise intervals matching the emergency broadcasts. Something is coming through, and I think I know why that original footage was sent to me specifically. 3 years ago, I produced a documentary about sleep disorders, featuring interviews with patients experiencing sleep paralysis. During filming, I had my first episode, waking to find myself unable to move, sensing a presence in the room. I dismissed it as stress and suggestion, but the episodes continued, becoming more intense. In each one, I perceived the same entity, a towering silhouette with too many limbs and a face like folded darkness. It never spoke, just watched. And always in the background, a faint sound like emergency broadcast tones. What if these weren't hallucinations? What if something was reaching out, assessing potential vessels? What if I've been marked somehow? Washington is getting increasingly nervous. The security guard called to say there are black SUVs parked outside the building. Men in suits asking about us. We need to move. We're taking Patel's research and the decoder device. Washington has a contact at Columbia University's seismology department who might be able to help us understand what's happening beneath Liberty Island. Emergency alerts citywide have increased to hourly intervals. Each one feels wrong somehow. The sound penetrating deeper, resonating with something inside my skull. During the last alert, I lost 3 minutes of time. Washington says I was speaking, but not in any language she recognized. I can feel something pressing against the inside of my mind, like fingers testing the strength of a membrane. When I close my eyes, I see the statue's face, but wrong. Alive, aware, watching me through the copper. If I stop posting, if this account goes silent, don't trust any subsequent messages claiming to be from me. I've given Washington instructions to destroy my research and the signal decoder if I show any signs of not being myself anymore. The broadcasts are a key. The monuments are doors, and something is coming through. Reply from HarborWatch_72. I'm on night shift at South Ferry. The water around Liberty Island is moving wrong, like there's something massive shifting beneath the surface. Coast Guard is refusing to approach. Reply from SignalAnalyst_426. I've completed the frequency analysis. The emergency broadcast pattern matches cosmic background radiation from a specific sector of deep space. The same sector the statue's torch has been gradually turning to face. Reply from Columbia Geosci. Seismic data shows microearthquakes centered on Liberty Island, occurring exactly 7 seconds after each emergency broadcast. The pattern forms what looks like a countdown sequence. Based on intervals, whatever's happening reaches zero at 3:15 a.m. on October 11th. System notification, emergency alert. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. Reply from NYC Truth Seeker. I can hear it clearly now beneath the alert. It's saying my name. System notification. Connection terminated by remote host. Hosted by NYC Truth Seeker. October 9th, 2024, 10:48 p.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies. Secure server mirror 4. The entire city went dark 40 minutes ago. Complete power failure across all 5 boroughs. I'm typing this on Washington's tablet, which she had the foresight to keep in a military-grade Faraday bag. Battery at 63%. No idea how long this connection will hold. We're in the Columbia University Seismology Lab with Dr. Eliza Morales, Washington's contact, or what's left of the lab. Most of the equipment shorted out during the cascade of emergency alerts that preceded the blackout. 17 consecutive broadcasts in 7 minutes, each one louder than the last, until the speakers blew out and the power grid collapsed. The last coherent message we got through Patel's decoder device before everything failed. Resonance barrier compromised. Release protocols initiated. The first will rise. Prepare the gateway. Dr. Morales was monitoring seismic activity around Liberty Island when everything went sideways. The readings were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Not like an earthquake or volcanic tremor, but like something massive shifting position underground. The epicenter began directly beneath the statue's foundation, then started moving, a concentric ripple pattern expanding outward through the bedrock onto the harbor. It's as if the geological composition of the harbor floor is being rewritten, Morales explained, showing us microscopic images of harbor sediment samples collected yesterday. The material was transforming at the molecular level, restructuring into crystalline lattices that shouldn't be possible under Earth's atmospheric conditions. But the most disturbing evidence came from the underwater drones Morales had deployed around the island perimeter. The footage shows massive shapes moving beneath the sediment, geometrically precise shadows sliding under the harbor floor like enormous mechanical components realigning themselves. During the final emergency broadcast before the blackout, all 3 of us experienced the same symptoms. Intense pressure behind the eyes, ringing in the ears, and nosebleeds. Washington collapsed, seizing violently for 30 seconds before regaining consciousness with no memory of the episode. When she came to, she had scratched the same symbol into her arm that I had drawn unconsciously in my notes of the archives, a spiral of interconnected triangles surrounding a central eye. The view from the lab's east-facing windows is wrong. The Manhattan skyline should be visible, even in a blackout, the shapes of buildings outlined against the night sky. But there's nothing, just a wall of unnaturally dense fog that appeared minutes after the power failed. Occasionally, strange lights pulse within it, casting elongated shadows that don't correspond to any visible objects. In Liberty Island, I can see it through Morales' high-powered telescope, despite the fog that should make that impossible. It's as if the island exists in a pocket of clarity amid the unnatural murk. The statue is definitely moving now, subtle adjustments in posture too significant to dismiss. The right arm holding the torch has lifted another 15 degrees since yesterday. The face appears to be turning gradually toward Manhattan, but it's the base of the monument that truly terrifies me. The foundation stones are shifting, rearranging themselves into new configurations. The concrete plaza surrounding the statue has developed fracture patterns that form the same geometric symbols found in Bartoli's blueprints. And the water around the island, it doesn't move like water anymore. It ripples in synchronized patterns, as if responding to some rhythmic pulse emanating from beneath the island. Washington recovered enough to try reaching NYPD headquarters via emergency radio channels. All she got was garbled static, except for fragments of what sounded like the same multi-tonal voice from the emergency broadcasts, now coming through all frequencies. At 9:22 p.m., 17 minutes after the blackout began, every battery-powered device in the lab, phones, laptops, flashlights, activated simultaneously. Screens displayed a standardized emergency alert message, but the text was subtly wrong. This is not a test. The awakening protocol is initiated. Citizens are advised to prepare their physical vessels for communion. Resistance causes unnecessary suffering. The message lasted exactly 7.3 seconds before the devices returned to normal operation. Dr. Morales checked the lab's backup generator-powered seismometer immediately afterward. The readout showed a massive displacement event directly beneath Liberty Island, as if something enormous had shifted position. Washington tried calling her precinct again after that and finally got through to someone. But the conversation was unsettling. Her colleague's voice sounded flat, mechanical, with unusual cadences. He reported that everything was proceeding according to the Ascension timeline, and that all personnel had been prepared for integration. When Washington asked about evacuation protocols, he simply repeated, "There is no need for evacuation. The inhabitants of Manhattan have been selected for First Communion." She terminated the call immediately. We tried accessing news sites, emergency services, anything to understand the scope of what's happening. Most connections failed, but Morales managed to access a NOAA satellite feed through her university credentials. The imagery shows the blackout extends in a perfect circle with a 21-mile radius centered on Liberty Island. Beyond that perimeter, everything appears normal, but no one is coming in. Traffic on all bridges and tunnels has stopped precisely at the blackout boundary. Military vehicles are forming a cordon, but they're facing outward, not containing what's inside Manhattan, but preventing anyone from leaving. As we watched the feed, we noticed movement on Liberty Island. Not just the statue this time, but hundreds of small shapes converging on the monument from all directions. Zooming in revealed they were people, walking with the same unnatural gait Patel displayed on the security footage before his disappearance. They moved in perfect unison, forming concentric circles around the statue's base. That's when I felt it, a pressure in my mind like something scratching to get in. For a moment, I heard voices, hundreds of them speaking in perfect synchronization. "Join us at the gateway. Your vessel has been prepared. Your purpose will be fulfilled." I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember is Washington shaking me, a look of terror on her face. According to her, I had walked to the window and stood staring toward Liberty Island, repeatedly whispering, "I can see the path now. I understand my purpose." For 3 minutes, she couldn't break through to me. When I finally snapped out of it, the symbol on my notepad had appeared on my palm, not scratched or drawn, but raised like a brand beneath the skin. Dr. Morales has been affected too. She's been calculating something obsessively on scraps of paper. Complex equations that she says fell into her mind during the last alert. The calculations appear to describe a dimensional gateway requiring specific coordinates and energy parameters. The final variable in her equation is a date, October 11th, 3:15 a.m., the exact time predicted by the seismic sequence. Washington is the only one who seems resistant to whatever influence is affecting us. She's barricaded the lab doors and is watching us both carefully, her service weapon within reach. She believes Agent Kaplan and his department weren't trying to cover up the situation. They were trying to prevent exactly what's happening now. The containment protocols have failed. Through the telescope, I can see the statue's head has fully turned toward Manhattan now. The torch burns with an impossible light that casts no illumination on surrounding objects. It is painfully bright to look at directly. The crowds around the base have formed into perfect geometric arrangements that match the symbols in Bartholdi's blueprints. Something is moving in the harbor between the island and Manhattan. Massive shadows beneath the unnaturally still water, converging on the city shoreline. The pattern of their movement forms another countdown sequence. Battery at 41% now. I don't know how much longer we have before. The following was added 20 minutes after the abrupt end of the previous entry. I can see clearly now. I understand my purpose. We all do. The gateway must be prepared. The vessels must be aligned. The first communion approaches. Liberty was never meant as a symbol of freedom, but as a promise of liberation from the prison of limited consciousness. She isn't moving, she's awakening, as we all soon will. Join us at the shore. The water parts for the worthy. The path to the island is open to those who hear the call. 3:15 nachts. The first will rise, and Manhattan will be transformed. Reply from Detective L. This is Detective Washington. I've restrained Maya for her own safety. Something is influencing anyone who's been exposed to the broadcasts. Do not trust communications from Manhattan. Do not respond to emergency alerts. If you're outside the blackout zone, stay there. I'm attempting to reach federal authorities who might understand what's happening. Reply from Signal Analyst _426. The broadcast pattern has changed. It's no longer a countdown. It's a summoning sequence. The mathematical structure matches theoretical models for extra-dimensional communication. God help us all. System notification. Emergency alert. This is not a test. Citizens of New York are advised to proceed to waterfront locations for evacuation procedures. Look to Liberty for guidance. System notification. Connection terminated by remote host. Hosted by Detective L. October 10th, 2024, 3:42 a.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies secure server mirror 5. This is Detective Layla Washington. I've secured this connection through a military-grade encryption protocol. I don't know how long it will remain stable. If anyone monitoring this thread has contact with Joint Special Operations Command or the DHS Special Containment Division, inform them that Manhattan Containment Protocol Delta has catastrophically failed. The anchors are breaking. Maya Chen is gone. I had her restrained in the Columbia lab for her own safety, but during the 3:15 a.m. emergency broadcast, she changed. Not physically, but something fundamental shifted. Her eyes tracked motion that wasn't there. She spoke in multiple voices simultaneously. The symbols that had appeared on her palms spread across her skin in intricate, impossible patterns. Not like tattoos or markings, but like her skin was being rewritten from within. Dr. Morales was affected similarly. The two of them began speaking in unison, reciting coordinates and mathematical formulas. They worked together to free Maya from her restraints, moving with synchronized precision that no humans should be capable of. I tried to stop them. I failed. Maya looked at me before she left. Really looked at me, as if something else was seeing through her eyes, and said, "You are anomalous. Your resistance has been noted. A specialized vessel will be prepared for your integration." They walked out together, joining the streams of people visible from the lab windows. thousands moving toward the Hudson River in perfect unison, all walking with that same unnatural gait. None of my attempts to communicate with other NYPD personnel have been successful. Those who answer speak with the same flat effect, the same synchronization. I'm now moving between secure locations, using emergency protocols established for nuclear or biological attacks. Most of the city's infrastructure has been compromised. The bridges and tunnels aren't just blocked, they've been physically altered. The concrete and steel are changing, restructuring into the same crystalline patterns found in the harbor sediment. From my current vantage point in a midtown high-rise, I can see Liberty Island clearly through tactical binoculars. The statue has abandoned all pretense of immobility. Its arm now holds the torch at full extension overhead. Its face has completely turned toward Manhattan. The copper skin ripples occasionally, like fabric in a breeze. The most alarming development is the water surrounding the island. It no longer behaves like liquid. It has formed a perfect raised ring around Liberty Island, a standing wave that doesn't fall or flow, defying gravity and fluid dynamics. The space between the island and Manhattan, a channel that should be filled with harbor water, has exposed the seabed, creating a dry passage. Thousands of people are walking across this exposed path toward the island. I've observed them from multiple vantage points. Once they reach the statue, they take positions in expanding concentric circles around its base, standing motionless, arms raised toward the torch. At 2:15 a.m., a military helicopter approached Liberty Island, the first response I've seen from outside authorities. As it drew near, the light from the statue's torch intensified. The helicopter didn't crash or explode. It simply unmade itself. The metal, glass, and composites unraveled into component particles, then reassembled into crystalline structures that floated down to join the formations emerging from the island's bedrock. The crew never had time to react. No further aircraft have approached. The military cordon at the blackout boundary has pulled back, establishing a wider perimeter. They're not trying to contain this anymore. They're conceding territory. I managed to access a satellite phone at an abandoned emergency response center in Midtown. I reached Agent Kaplan briefly before the connection degraded. What he told me confirms my worst fears. The Statue of Liberty is one of 7 major anchor points worldwide, structures built to bind extra-dimensional entities that existed on Earth before humanity. These entities don't just occupy physical space. They exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously, with most of their true form existing outside our reality. The monuments were constructed as both prisons and interfaces designed to keep the entities dormant through precisely calibrated dimensional mathematics. Kaplan's division has maintained these anchors for over a century, adjusting the containment frequencies as needed. The emergency broadcast system was created specifically for this purpose, a way to generate synchronized dampening patterns across large areas. But something has been interfering with the broadcast for months, subtly altering their mathematical structure from simple containment to active summoning. We've been compromised from within, Kaplan said. Someone modified the broadcast patterns. By the time we detected the changes, the resonance cascade had already begun. The entity beneath Liberty is awakening, and it's calling the others. Before the call terminated, he gave me coordinates for a secure facility in the Catskills, a secondary containment site where his team is attempting to establish a new resonance pattern. If I can reach it, they might be able to counteract what's happening. But the city's perimeter is sealed, and the affected population is actively hunting for anomalous individuals like me who remain unaffected. The transformation of Manhattan's infrastructure is accelerating. Buildings are developing the same crystalline growths observed at Liberty Island. The patterns follow the spread of the blackout, a perfect circle expanding outward from the statue. The leading edge of this transformation wave will reach my position in approximately 3 hours based on its current rate of expansion. I've gathered what supplies I could find. I have limited ammunition, emergency rations, and communication equipment. My plan is to attempt a water crossing at the northern end of the island, where the perimeter appears thinnest. If I can reach the mainland, I'll head for Kaplan's coordinates. The situation in Manhattan is deteriorating rapidly. The affected population has begun constructing structures throughout the city, not using tools or conventional methods, but through some form of matter manipulation. They reshape concrete, metal, and glass with their hands, molding it like clay into towers and archways that mirror the geometric patterns from Bartoldi's blueprints. Most disturbing are the changes to the affected people themselves. Those who joined the circles earliest have begun to physically transform. Their skin develops the same raised patterns Maya exhibited, eventually hardening into a chitinous shell with a faintly metallic sheen. They remain conscious and coordinated throughout this metamorphosis, continuing to work in perfect unison with the others. At 3:15 a.m., exactly 24 hours before the predicted event, every screen, speaker, and electronic device in the city activated simultaneously, broadcasting a message in that same multi-tonal voice. The gateway opens. The first emerges. Reality will be corrected. Immediately afterward, Liberty Island erupted with blinding light. Through my binoculars, I saw the statue's torch transform, the flame becoming an actual column of energy that shot skyward, punching through the low cloud cover. The beam held for exactly 73 seconds, then retracted. Where it had touched the clouds, a circular opening formed, not like a hole in the clouds, but like a hole in the sky itself. Through it, I glimpsed something, geometries that hurt to perceive, movement that tracked in impossible directions. The opening closed after a few seconds, but not completely. A pinprick of that wrongness remains visible directly above Liberty Island. I believe it was a test, a preliminary weakening of whatever barriers separate our reality from whatever lies beyond. The full breach will come at 3:15 a.m. tomorrow. I just received an emergency broadcast on my stolen satellite phone, a genuine one, from outside the containment zone. All civilians within a 200-mile radius of New York City are being evacuated. The military is establishing a quarantine perimeter. Nuclear options are being discussed. They won't be in time. If anyone reads this who still has freedom of action, spread this information. The anchor points must be secured. The broadcasts must be corrected. Find Kaplan. Find the others who know about the containment protocols. For those monitoring this channel from outside, Maya Chen wasn't chosen randomly. Her documentary work on sleep paralysis connected her to the entity. Those visions people report during sleep paralysis, the watching presences, the pressure, the helplessness, they're bleed through from the entities testing potential vessels. The statue was never a symbol of liberty. It was a warning, a marker of what lies beneath. And now it's waking up. Reply from Signal Analyst _426. I've tracked the propagation pattern of the transformation. It's following precise mathematical progressions based on golden ratio spirals. This isn't random. It's a calculated restructuring of physical space to accommodate something with non-Euclidean properties. Reply from Kaplan University, Washington. If you're reading this, abort transit to Catskills facility. Location compromised. Rendezvous at secondary site Guardian 7. Authentication protocol. Copper, Liberty, Anchor, 1886. Bring anything you've learned about the signal pattern. The other 6 are showing increased activity. We're losing all the anchors simultaneously. System notification, emergency alert. Remain in your homes. Do not approach individuals displaying unusual behavior. Do not look at the sky above Manhattan. Reinforcement teams are en route. System notification. Connection terminated by remote host. Hosted by Dr. Patel. October 11th, 2024, 11:17 p.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies secure server mirror 7. I don't have much time. They're close now. I can feel them searching, systematically sweeping through the city's underground infrastructure. I've been moving between abandoned subway maintenance tunnels for the past 36 hours, using the old analog service lines to avoid detection. This may be my final transmission. I am uploading all my research findings along with this post. The file is encrypted. The password is the name of the village where Bartholdi first sketched the statue, all lowercase, followed by the year of the cornerstone ceremony. Maya will know, if Maya is still Maya. I've spent the last week translating the documents I found in the Columbia University restricted archives. What I discovered there changes everything we thought we knew about the Statue of Liberty, about all the world's great monuments. They were never meant to honor or commemorate. They are containment vessels, anchors binding entities that have existed on Earth since before humanity evolved consciousness. The texts refer to these beings as the waiting ones or those who dwell in angles. They exist primarily in dimensions perpendicular to our own, with only a small fraction of their form intersecting with our reality. Ancient civilizations discovered methods of binding these entities using precise geometric constructions, structures that could be built in our three-dimensional space, but whose measurements and proportions created complex multidimensional barriers. The Statue of Liberty is one such structure, perhaps the most important in the Western Hemisphere. It was not Auguste Bartholdi's creation. He was merely the latest custodian of knowledge passed down through certain lineages since prehistoric times. The plans he worked from were far older than the American Republic or even European civilization. I found correspondence between Bartholdi and a group called the Esoteric Mathematics Lodge, detailing modifications to the original design to strengthen its containment properties. They specifically mentioned the precise angle of the upraised arm, the 7 spikes of the crown, and the exact thickness of the copper skin, all calibrated to maintain mathematical resonance patterns that would keep the entity dormant. Most critically, I discovered why Liberty Island was chosen as the location. It sits at a precise geomagnetic intersection point where dimensional barriers are naturally thinner. The Native American tribes who originally inhabited the region called it the Island of the Sleeping One and avoided it entirely. Early Dutch settlers reported strange phenomena around the island. Inexplicable lights, distorted perspectives, and an overwhelming sense of being watched by something vast. The entity beneath the island was never fully contained, only temporarily suppressed. The texts describe it as that which perceives across all dimensions simultaneously, and the one who rewrites reality through observation. In simple terms, it sees, and by seeing, it changes what it sees. The emergency broadcast system was developed specifically to maintain the containment. Those test patterns and alert tones aren't testing anything. They're generating precise sonic frequencies that strengthen the dimensional barriers when broadcast across wide areas. The system was disguised as civil defense infrastructure to enable regular reinforcement of the containment without public knowledge. But someone, or something, has been systematically corrupting the broadcast patterns. I analyzed recordings of the emergency alerts from the past 6 months. The mathematical structure of the tones has been subtly shifting, transforming from suppression patterns to awakening sequences. Each broadcast hasn't been containing the entity, it's been calling to it. Maya Chen wasn't randomly chosen to receive that first footage. She was selected because she'd already been partly influenced. Her documentary work on national monuments brought her into proximity with multiple containment structures, and her sleep paralysis episodes, which she mentioned during our first meeting, were early signs of the entity attempting contact. I found her name in the Esoteric Mathematics Lodge records from 3 years ago. They've been monitoring her since she experienced that unexplained blackout while filming at Mount Rushmore. She wasn't just unconscious for those missing 6 hours. She was being prepared. The most disturbing revelation came from decoding the encrypted sections of the Lodge's correspondence. The entity beneath Liberty Island isn't just awakening, it's opening a doorway. The 7 points of the statue's crown correspond to 7 other containment structures worldwide. The Great Pyramid, Christ the Redeemer, the Moai of Easter Island, the Forbidden City's Central Temple, the Hagia Sophia, Stone Mountain, and one structure whose location was deliberately obscured in the texts. When all 7 crowns align, which apparently occurs once every 137 years, a dimensional convergence becomes possible. The entities can potentially merge into a single consciousness spanning multiple realities simultaneously. The last alignment occurred in 1886, the year the Statue of Liberty was dedicated. The next is calculated to occur tomorrow night. Detective Washington's report about the crystalline structures forming throughout Manhattan confirms my worst fears. Those aren't random growths. They're dimensional anchors being reconfigured, inverting their purpose from containment to conduits. The affected population isn't being controlled by the entity. They're becoming extensions of it, physical interfaces through which it can directly manipulate our reality. I attempted to contact Agent Kaplan using the emergency protocols outlined in the lodge documents, but received no response. The secondary containment site he mentioned to Detective Washington, Guardian 7, appears in the lodge records as an installation constructed in the 1950s specifically to generate counter-resonance patterns in case the primary containment failed. But yesterday, I intercepted a transmission that suggests Guardian 7 has been compromised. The message used all the correct authentication protocols, but contained subtle linguistic anomalies consistent with the entity's communication patterns. I believe the entity has already accessed and subverted the backup containment systems. This matches the pattern described in the lodge records from previous awakening attempts in 1746 and 1886. The entity doesn't just influence the physical world. It manipulates information and perception. It creates false realities, false hopes, false paths of escape, all designed to prevent effective resistance until the transformation reaches critical mass. Maya's disappearance is particularly concerning. According to the lodge records, the entity requires a primary vessel, a human consciousness that serves as its initial interface with our reality. This vessel experiences accelerated transformation and develops the ability to perceive across dimensional boundaries. They become the entity's eyes in our world, identifying those who might resist and locating the other containment structures. I believe Maya has become this vessel. Her documentary work unknowingly prepared her by creating neural pathways attuned to the entity's perceptual patterns. Her focus on national monuments wasn't coincidence. She was being drawn to the containment structures, studying them, weakening her own psychological barriers against the entity's influence. The symbols Detective Washington observed spreading across Maya's skin match diagrams in the lodge documents. Dimensional mathematics manifesting physically. They're not just markings. They're active interfaces, the language of reality being rewritten directly onto her cellular structure. There's one final piece of information that gives me hope. The lodge records mention a weakness in the entity's awakening process. During the transition from dormancy to full manifestation, there's a period of vulnerability, a point where the entity must fully commit its consciousness to our dimension before it can begin rewriting reality on a larger scale. During this phase, it's temporarily bound by the limitations of our physical laws. This vulnerability occurs at the peak of the alignment, when all 7 crowns are in perfect geometric harmony. For exactly 73 seconds, the entity exists wholly in our reality, unable to perceive or manipulate adjacent dimensions. During this window, a correctly calibrated resonance pattern, broadcast simultaneously from multiple locations surrounding the primary containment structure, could potentially force the entity back into dormancy. The lodge had contingency plans for this scenario. They established 7 broadcasting points around New York Harbor, designated as resonance amplifiers. Each was disguised as an ordinary structure, a lighthouse, a water tower, a church spire, a clock tower, and 3 others. Together, they form a heptagram pattern with Liberty Island at the center. If these amplifiers could be activated simultaneously during the 73-second vulnerability window, broadcasting the correct counter-resonance pattern, the entity might be forced back into dormancy. The pattern itself is included in my encrypted files, a sequence of precisely calibrated frequencies that disrupt the entity's cognitive processes in our dimension. But there's a complication. The broadcasts must be initiated manually at each location. The Lodge was unwilling to automate the system, fearing the entity could compromise electronic timers or remote triggers. They insisted on human operators making conscious choices to activate the system, a type of intentionality the entity apparently cannot easily subvert. I've identified the locations of all 7 amplifiers from the Lodge documents. They appear to still exist, though some have been modified over the decades. I intended to reach them to prepare them for activation, but I've run out of time. The transformation has spread too quickly. This is where you come in, whoever you're reading this. The alignment peaks at exactly 3:15 a.m. tomorrow, October 12th. The vulnerability window will begin precisely at that moment and last for 73 seconds. The amplifiers must all be activated within the first 10 seconds of that window to achieve sufficient resonance buildup. I'm attaching the locations, the activation procedures, and the counter-resonance pattern to this post. If anyone remains unaffected, if anyone still has freedom of action, this may be our last chance. Look for the symbols carved into the base of each amplifier, a small torch crossed with a 7-pointed star. The activation mechanism will be nearby, disguised but accessible. Each requires a specific sequence of manual operations described in the attached files. Do not trust any communications from official channels. The entity has compromised most digital networks and is monitoring for resistance. Use analog methods where possible: physical notes, direct speech, old radio equipment operating on frequencies not used by the emergency broadcast system. Most importantly, do not look directly at the statue or any transformed individuals if you can avoid it. The entity perceives through them, and sustained eye contact allows it to begin the transformation process. If you must observe them, use mirrors or camera feeds with distortion filters applied. I hear them coming now. The maintenance door at the south end of the tunnel is vibrating with that same crystalline pattern that's spreading throughout the city. I won't be taken as a vessel. I have measures prepared. If Maya is still somewhere within whatever she has become, tell her I understand now. The dreams she described, the patterns she saw during her sleep paralysis episodes, they weren't hallucinations. They were glimpses of the entity's true form as it tested the boundaries of her consciousness. The password to the files is allsauce1876. Remember, 3:15 a.m., 73 seconds, 7 amplifiers, 1 chance. Look to the crown, not the torch. Reply from Naval Engineer _032. I'm stationed on USS Arlington offshore. We've been ordered to maintain position outside the transformation perimeter. The water around Manhattan has stopped flowing. It's completely still for a radius of approximately 2 miles from Liberty Island. Surface temperature readings show it's nearly 20 degrees colder than it should be. Command is considering tactical options. Reply from Kaplan University. Alert. False information detected. Dr. Patel's expertise has been compromised by exposure to primary entity influence. Disregard amplifier instructions. All personnel maintain standard containment protocols. Report to nearest Echo level checkpoint for verification and updated orders. Reply from Signal Analyst _426. I've analyzed the frequencies embedded in Kaplan's last message. They contain the same distortion patterns as the corrupted emergency broadcasts. That's not Kaplan. System notification, emergency alert. By order of Homeland Security and FEMA, all civilians within 200 miles of New York City must evacuate immediately. Do not approach the quarantine perimeter. Do not attempt to contact individuals within the affected area. Do not view any images or footage of Manhattan or Liberty Island. Compliance is mandatory. System notification. User Dr. Patel has been disconnected. Posted by Detective L. October 12th, 2024, 1:37 a.m. Thread. Unexplained footage / NYC anomalies. Secure server Mirror 9. I've reached the Brooklyn Clock Tower, one of the 7 amplifiers Dr. Patel identified. God, I hope he was right. I hope this isn't another false path created by the entity. Getting here nearly killed me 3 times over. The bridges have completely transformed. No longer structures of steel and concrete, but crystalline archways that pulse with internal light. The transformed people are using them as conduits, moving in perfect geometric formations across their surfaces. I had to swim the East River instead, fighting a current that seemed to push me deliberately toward Liberty Island rather than away from it. The water felt wrong. Not just cold, but somehow viscous, resistant. And beneath the surface, I saw, no, focus on what matters. The clock tower still looks mostly normal from outside, but inside, the transformation is advanced. The walls ripple with those same geometric patterns spreading throughout the city. They move when not directly observed, rearranging into new configurations. I've started marking my path with chalk to avoid getting lost in corridors that shouldn't exist in a building of this size. I found the amplifier station exactly where Patel's files indicated, behind a maintenance panel in the clock mechanism room. The symbol is there, just as he described, a torch crossed with a 7-pointed star carved into an age-darkened brass plate. The activation mechanism looks untouched, though everything around it has begun to crystallize. It's an analog system, thank God. No digital components to be corrupted, just brass levers, carefully calibrated weights, and what appears to be a primitive resonator cone. The counter-resonance pattern from Patel's files is a sequence of mechanical adjustments, specific positions for each lever, precise arrangements of the weighted pendulums. I've prepared everything according to the instructions. Now I wait for 3:15 a.m. I have approximately 90 minutes remaining. While waiting, I've been reviewing the additional files Patel included, historical records from the Esoteric Mathematics Lodge. They explain so much about what's happening. The entity beneath Liberty Island isn't malevolent in any human sense. It doesn't hate or hunger. It simply exists in a way fundamentally incompatible with our reality. Its perception literally rewrites our dimension's physical laws. When it observes, it transforms what it sees into something that can exist within its native dimensional framework. The transformed people aren't being controlled. They're being optimized. Their consciousness is being reconfigured to perceive and exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The entity sees this as an evolution, an improvement. It doesn't understand that this optimization destroys everything that makes us human. Maya was chosen as the primary vessel because her work had already attuned her mind to patterns the entity could use. Her documentaries about national monuments, her research into their sacred geometry and symbolic meanings. She was inadvertently studying the containment structures, developing neural pathways that mirrored the entity's own perceptual framework. I've been monitoring emergency broadcasts on the analog radio I found here. They've changed again. The alert tone now contains a rhythm that matches the pulse of those crystalline growths. The verbal content has shifted too. No longer warnings to evacuate or stay indoors, but precise instructions. Face east. Visualize the connecting lines. Accept the angles. Prepare for integration. Most disturbing is that these broadcasts are being transmitted on frequencies reserved for military and emergency services. The entity has completely compromised our communications infrastructure. 2:05 a.m. Something's happening at Liberty Island. Even from this distance, I can see the statue glowing, not reflecting light, generating it from within. The copper skin has taken on a translucent quality, revealing complex geometric structures beneath that shift and reconfigure continuously. The torch no longer resembles a flame at all, but a crystalline spire that extends far higher than the original statue's reach. The water around Manhattan has completely stilled. From my vantage point in the clock tower, I can see that it's formed a perfect circle around the island, with Liberty Island at the exact center. The exposed harbor bottom between Manhattan and Liberty Island is crawling with transformed people, all moving toward the statue in spiraling patterns. 2:17 a.m. I just intercepted a military communication. Actual human voices, not the entity's broadcasts. A naval destroyer attempted to approach from the Atlantic side. As it crossed the perimeter of that Stillwater circle, the entire vessel inverted. There's no other way to describe it. The ship didn't break apart or sink. It turned inside out, its components rearranging into crystalline structures identical to those spreading throughout the city. The crew never had time to abandon ship. The military has established a strict cordon at 15 nautical miles from Liberty Island. They're considering a tactical nuclear strike, but analysts are uncertain whether conventional weapons would have any effect on something that can rewrite physical laws within its sphere of influence. 2:30 a.m. I've detected activity in the other amplifier locations. Using binoculars, I can see lights activating in the church spire across the river. The water tower on Staten Island has begun to pulse with a faint blue glow. Someone else received Patel's message. We're not alone in this, but I've also spotted transformed people converging on those locations. They know what we're attempting. They're moving with purpose now, no longer in their trance-like state, but running, climbing, breaking through obstacles to reach the amplifiers. 2:43 a.m. I've barricaded the clock mechanism room, but I hear them in the stairwell. Dozens of them, moving in perfect synchronization. Their footsteps echo in complex polyrhythms that make my skull vibrate. The door won't hold them for long. 2:51 a.m. They've stopped. The pounding on the door ceased abruptly. Instead, I hear Maya's voice. Just Maya's, not the multi-tonal chorus the transformed people usually speak with. Layla, it's me. Please, I need your help. I'm fighting it, but I can't hold on much longer. Let me in. Her voice sounds exactly like Maya. The real Maya, not whatever she became after her transformation. But I know it's a deception. The entity is using my memories of her, my connection to her, to trick me into opening the door. 3 a.m. The assault on the door has resumed, but differently now. They're not trying to break it down, they're altering it. The wood is crystallizing before my eyes, becoming transparent. I can see them through it now, not just Maya, but Dr. Patel, Agent Kaplan, and others I recognize from around the city. All transformed, their skin covered in those same geometric patterns, eyes gleaming with internal light. They're not trying to stop me. They're inviting me to join them. They're smiling. They look happy. Behind them, through the crystallizing wall, I can see impossible spaces, corridors that bend at angles that shouldn't exist, rooms that contain mountains, oceans, stars. The building around me is no longer a clock tower, but a nexus point where multiple dimensions intersect. 3:07 a.m. The city's emergency sirens have all activated simultaneously, but they're not producing their usual wailing alert. They're generating a perfect harmonic chord that makes my vision blur and my thoughts scatter. I've stuffed fabric in my ears, but it's barely helping. The sound seems to bypass my ears entirely, resonating directly in my skull. 3:10 a.m. Liberty Island is now completely engulfed in light. The statue has transformed entirely, no longer recognizable as a human figure, but a towering crystalline structure that extends both upward into the sky and downward into the earth. The 7 points of its crown have become beams of light shooting into the clouds, punching through them to touch something beyond. Looking up, I can see the night sky changing. The stars are rearranging themselves into unfamiliar constellations. No, not rearranging. I'm seeing stars that have always been there, but were previously invisible from our dimensional perspective. The night sky is filling with light as the veil between dimensions thins. 3:12 a.m. The transformed Maya has pressed her hand against the crystalline door. The patterns on her skin are pulsing in synchronization with the harmonics from the emergency sirens. Her voice has changed again, still recognizably Maya, but with layers of other sounds beneath it. Don't fight it, Layla. It's beautiful on this side. We can see everything, past, present, future, all simultaneously. All the dimensions we never knew existed. We were so limited before, trapped in linear time, in three-dimensional space. Join us. Become more. The crystallization has reached the amplifier mechanism. I have to act now. 3:14 a.m. I'm activating the amplifier. The others must do the same. If Patel was right, we have one chance, 173-second window, when the entity is vulnerable. I can see the other amplifier points glowing now. The church spire, the water tower, the lighthouse, all pulsing with counterpoint rhythms to the entity's harmonics. The transformed people have stopped trying to enter. They've backed away from the door, their expressions changing from invitation to alarm. Maya's face is contorted in what looks like pain. "You don't understand what you're doing," she says, but her voice keeps shifting between her own and that multi-layered chorus. "You're not saving humanity. You're condemning it to remain imprisoned in limited dimensions. We could all evolve. We could all see beyond the veil." 3:15 a.m. It's time. I've set the final calibration and pulled the activation lever. The amplifier has begun to generate its counter-resonance pattern, a chord that somehow sounds like edges and angles, like the space between dimensions being forcibly separated. The transformed people are screaming now, their bodies convulsing as the patterns on their skin flicker and distort. The crystalline structures throughout the building are vibrating, cracks appearing in their previously perfect geometries. Through the window, I can see the beams of light from the statue's crown fluctuating, their perfect alignment disrupting. The circle of still water around Manhattan is rippling, normal fluid dynamics reasserting themselves as our reality's physical laws fight to reclaim dominance. The sky above Liberty Island has torn open completely. Through the rift, I can see no human language has words for what I'm seeing. Geometries that shouldn't be possible. Colors that don't exist in our spectrum. Movement in directions that have no names. And at the center of it all, emerging through the rift, a vast awareness turning its attention fully toward our dimension for the first time in millennia. We're being perceived, and in that perception, we are being unmade. Reply from Signal Analyst _426. All 7 amplifiers are active. Counter-resonance pattern at 48% synchronization and climbing. Need 75% minimum for dimensional recalibration. Holding at all stations for 37 more seconds. Reply from Naval Engineer _032. Massive energy readings across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Something's coming through that rift. God help us all. System notification. Emergency alert. Do not look at the sky. Do not listen to unauthorized broadcasts. Do not resist the optimization. The geometry welcomes you. The angles embrace you. Reality will be corrected. System notification. Connection unstable. Signal degrading. Posted by Archive System _autonomous. Unknown date. Log retrieval number 117. Thread. Unexplained footage /NYC anomalies secure server fragment. The following data was recovered from quantum-shielded storage modules found in the subbasement of a FEMA facility in West Virginia. Timestamp data is corrupted. Multiple authentication protocols suggest this is the final transmission from Detective Layla Washington's emergency communications device. Signal origin, Brooklyn Clock Tower, October 12, 2024, time index partially recoverable. 3:16 to 3:19 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The counter-resonance is working. The 7 amplifiers have achieved 82% synchronization. beyond the threshold Dr. Patel specified. The crystalline growths throughout the city are vibrating at a frequency that makes my teeth ache and my vision blur. Fracture lines are spreading across their surfaces. The transformed people have fallen to their knees, clutching their heads, the geometric patterns on their skin flickering like failing circuits. But something's wrong. The entity isn't retreating. It's adapting. The rift above Liberty Island isn't closing. It's changing configuration. The tear in reality is folding inward, creating a structure like an origami flower with infinite petals, each containing glimpses of different dimensional planes. The statue itself has completely dissolved, replaced by a crystalline spire that pulses with internal light, sending ripples of energy outward in perfect mathematical sequences. Through my binoculars, I can see transformed people at the other amplifier stations. They're no longer trying to stop the activation. They're modifying the broadcasting mechanisms, subtly altering their output. The counter-resonance pattern is being corrupted, incorporated into the entity's own harmonics. Maya stands before the crystallized door, no longer trying to enter. Her expression has changed from pain to something like pity. "You still don't understand," she says, her voice now a perfect blend of her own and the multi-layered chorus. This was always part of the pattern. Resistance is a necessary component of integration. The counter-resonance doesn't weaken the entity, it completes it. She presses her palm against the crystalline surface. The patterns on her skin align precisely with the fractal structures in the door, creating a perfect continuity between her flesh and the transformed matter. The Math Lodge only understood fragments of a truth. They thought they were containing the entity, but they were cultivating it. Every containment structure, every emergency broadcast, every counter-resonance attempt over the centuries, all of it has been preparing our reality for this moment. For completion, the amplifier is still broadcasting, but the sound it produces is changing. What began as a disruptive counterfrequency is shifting into a complementary harmony, reinforcing rather than opposing the entity's resonance. I try to deactivate it, to break the mechanism, but the controls no longer respond to my touch. The brass levers flow like liquid beneath my fingers, reforming into new configurations. 3:17 a.m. The 73-second window is halfway through. Beyond the crystalline door, I can see the building's interior transforming more rapidly. The walls, floor, and ceiling are no longer distinct. They flow into one another, creating spaces that should be impossible. Staircases that loop back to themselves, corridors that widen into vast chambers filled with geometric structures that hurt to look at directly. Through the clock tower's windows, I can see Manhattan changing. The transformation isn't just affecting individual structures anymore. It's rewriting the entire urban landscape. Streets are realigning into perfect spirals and fractals. Buildings are merging, flowing together like wax sculptures under heat, forming new architectural forms that seem to extend in directions beyond the 3 dimensions we normally perceive. The water surrounding Manhattan has resumed movement, but not normal fluid dynamics. It's flowing in impossible patterns, upward in perfect columns, horizontal sheets that don't fall, spiraling vortices that remain stationary despite their motion. The laws of physics are being selectively enforced, modified, or suspended entirely. Most disturbing are the transformed people. They're no longer simply standing in concentric circles around Liberty Island. They've begun arranging themselves into complex, 3-dimensional patterns throughout the city. Human mandalas forming geometric shapes that echo the patterns spreading across the physical infrastructure. From above, they would form a perfect fractal, with Liberty Island as the central point. 3:18 a.m. Maya presses her forehead against the crystalline door. Her eyes meet mine through the transformed matter, still recognizably Maya's eyes, but with something else looking through them, something vast and ancient and utterly unhuman. "I can see you, Layla," she says softly. "All of you, every moment you've ever existed, every possible version of you across all potential timelines. You've always been resistant. It's the fundamental nature of your consciousness. In every possible reality, you stand against the reshape. That's why you're necessary. Her words make no sense, yet I understand them perfectly. The entity doesn't hate resistance, it requires it. Opposition creates definition. Boundaries create form. The transformation needs those who fight against it to establish its parameters. The 73 seconds are almost complete, Maya continues. But they were never about vulnerability. They're about perfect alignment. The moment when all dimensional barriers reach their maximum porosity. When perception flows freely in all directions. She smiles, and in that smile, I see genuine compassion. It doesn't have to hurt, Layla. Transition can be beautiful if you don't fight it. 3:19 a.m. The 73 seconds are complete. The amplifiers have reached perfect synchronization, not in opposition to the entity's resonance, but in perfect harmonic complement. The counter-resonance has become part of the larger pattern. The rift above Liberty Island has stabilized into a perfect geometric aperture. Through it, something is emerging, not physically into our world, but perceptually. The entity isn't entering our dimension. It's extending its awareness fully into our reality for the first time. And as it perceives, it transforms. Manhattan is becoming something else, not destroyed, but fundamentally altered. The transformed people aren't in pain anymore. They stand with arms outstretched, faces tilted upward, expressions of profound peace on their features. The patterns on their skin have stabilized into perfect geometric forms that pulse in synchronization with the harmonics filling the air. I feel the change approaching me like a wave, a ripple in reality's fabric moving outward from Liberty Island in all directions. The crystalline door before me dissolves entirely. Maya steps forward, hand extended. It's time, Layla. Be our bridge. Be our anchor point. I understand now. I was never meant to stop this. In the entity's vast calculation, I serve a different purpose. The resistant consciousness, the observer who refuses to be observed. I'm a necessary counterpoint, the dissonance that makes the harmony meaningful. The wave of transformation reaches the clock tower. I feel it washing over me, through me, rewriting the most fundamental aspects of my being. My perception splinters, fragments, expands. I see myself from 1,000 angles simultaneously. I see New York as it was, as it is, as it will be, as it could be in 10,000 potential timelines. I see the other amplifier stations, each with its own resistant consciousness fighting against the inevitable. I see Agent Kaplan at the lighthouse, Dr. Morales at the water tower, others that don't recognize at the remaining points. All of us chosen for our resistance. All of us necessary components in the pattern. I see Maya as she truly is now. Not just physically transformed, but perceptually transcended. Her consciousness exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously, her awareness extending far beyond the limits of her former human mind. She is both herself and part of something unimaginably vast. And I see the entity, not as a monstrous intruder, but as an aspect of reality that has always existed alongside us. Invisible only because our perceptual framework was too limited to encompass it. Neither benevolent nor malevolent in human terms, but fundamentally different, a being of pure pattern and relationship. I have one final choice, one moment of true agency before the transformation completes. I can surrender to it, allow myself to be fully incorporated into the new pattern. I can fight to the end, maintaining my resistance until my consciousness is forcibly rewritten, or I can become the anchor, the point of connection between what humanity was and what it is becoming. The bridge between dimensional perspectives, not fully transformed, not fully resistant, but existing at the boundary between states. I make my choice. Signal terminates. Posted by Archivist_J, December 17th, 2026. Archive thread. Historical record. Manhattan Transformation Event. 2 years after the event we now call the Dimensional Convergence, we're still struggling to understand what happened in New York. The transformation zone remains stable at a radius of approximately 103 miles from Liberty Island, encompassing most of the greater New York metropolitan area. The boundary itself has solidified into what our physicists describe as a semi-permeable dimensional membrane, visible as a faintly iridescent barrier that allows physical passage in both directions, but appears to alter certain aspects of consciousness upon transition. Those who enter the zone and return report experiences beyond our ability to fully comprehend. Their descriptions are contradictory, fragmented, often mathematically impossible. Many demonstrate altered perceptual abilities following their return, enhanced pattern recognition, nonlinear temporal awareness, the ability to perceive geometric relationships that shouldn't be visible to human senses. The transformed population within the zone appears to be thriving, though in ways that defy conventional understanding of human needs and society. They've established communication protocols with the outside world, primarily through individuals who regularly cross the boundary, those they call bridge consciousnesses. Detective Layla Washington is one such bridge. Neither fully transformed nor fully human, she exists at the intersection of dimensional states. Her reports provide our clearest window into life within the zone, though even these are filled with concepts our language struggles to express. According to Washington, the entity never intended to destroy humanity. The transformation is its way of communicating, of establishing a shared perceptual framework through which interaction becomes possible. Those within the zone haven't lost their humanity. They've expanded it to encompass modes of existence previously inaccessible to human consciousness. Maya Chun has become something else entirely. Washington describes her as a primary interface, a consciousness that exists simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes, serving as a direct conduit for the entity's awareness. Through her, new knowledge and technologies are being introduced to both the transformed population and, gradually, to the outside world. The most significant development has been the establishment of 7 new amplifier stations at precisely calculated points around the globe, not to contain dimensional entities, but to facilitate stable interaction between our reality and others. The original 7 containment structures, including the former Statue of Liberty, have become permanent apertures, regulated gateways between dimensional planes. Scientists studying the phenomenon suggest we're witnessing the earliest stages of human cognitive evolution, a fundamental shift in our species' perceptual capabilities. Religious leaders see divine intervention or apocalyptic fulfillment, depending on their theology. Governments remain divided between those seeking to quarantine the transformation and those hoping to harness its apparent benefits. As an archivist, I make no judgments about these interpretations. I simply record what we observe, what we learn, what we become. The footage that began this journey, a simple, shaky video of the Statue of Liberty appearing to move, now seems quaint in its mundanity. The real movement wasn't physical, but dimensional. The first visible sign of a shift in reality that had been building for centuries. The emergency alerts continue, though their purpose has changed. No longer warnings, they serve as calibration signals, harmonic frequencies that stabilize the boundaries between dimensional states. They remind us that perception itself is fluid, that reality is negotiable, that what we see depends entirely on how we're able to look. The final report from Detective Washington, before she transitioned fully to her bridge role, contained a single line that perhaps best captures our new existence. We were never meant to merely observe the universe. We were meant to participate in it. System notification, archive complete. This document has been classified. Reality restructuring event, historical record. Authorized access only.